let's get started with the program. I want to welcome our keynote speaker, Becca Chambers. Becca is the CMO of Scale Venture Partners and is a LinkedIn top voice. She's an award-winning communications leader known for bringing authenticity and passion to her work with 20 years in communication and over 15 years focused on enterprise tech. She's also recognized for building standout brands and high-impact, close-knit communication teams. And she will be interviewed today by Jamie Stanziano, who is EVP and Head of Technology, Media, and Telecommunications at Ipsos, where he leads the US commercial team focused on these sectors. So welcome, Jamie and Becca.
Good to see you all today. Becca, hi.
Hi.
Thanks everyone for coming out. We are here today to talk a lot about the world of creativity and everything in it. And Becca and I were talking prior to today's conversation and prepping for the day, and we were talking about the phrase the creative reset. And I think that's a very big deal, whether you work at a tech company, whether you work at a media company, whether you are at an agency or in the insights and data world. That can apply to all of our day-to-day lives in what we work on. So Becca, we're going to talk a lot about that. And Becca is in a very unique position, everyone, being a CMO at Scale Venture Partners and also one of the world's strongest and largest creators on LinkedIn. And that's a very unique position to be in. And with a lot of unique insights that come from the intersection of both, Becca, your professional role as a CMO and also your personal brand and being a creator as well. So Becca, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your journey to start, maybe on the professional side. How did you sort of arrive in this role you're in today?
Yeah, so I've been in B2B tech communications since 2010. Before that, it was a sports PR. And I've worn all the hats in brand and communications, and any of the hats that I didn't wear, I was teaching myself things, like graphic design and things like that. Over the years, I started leaning into thought leadership and executive communications and how important that is, especially in B2B, for trust, right? And that kind of snowballed into me leading communications and brand teams, but missing this piece of I need the executives at my company to be showing up as a voice of the brand, right? And half of my job felt like I was just trying to convince them all day long, like, I need you to show up here. I need you to go to these events and speak. I need you to show up on LinkedIn. I need you to post this content, but not just, hey, look at our product update, right? Like real authentic content. And it was like slamming my head against a wall. So then it was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself. And I'm going to show people that I might get 30,000 views to our website. Can I get more to my content? And then it did, and it worked. And it kind of snowballed into this. I no longer had to slam my head against a wall and convince executives that they needed to do this. I could just say, hey, look at my data. You need like millions of views compared to thousands of views, plus an authentic, trusted voice is so much more powerful. So it's kind of led me into, like you said, this intersection of being both a creator and somebody who advocates for executives and founders and, well, really everybody to build a personal brand, because I think it's becoming more and more important as it ladders up to corporate brands too.
Amazing. That's an awesome journey. And can we give it up for creators looking at data, please, for the audience? Like
Yeah.
we will clip that after this talk. Becca, and so along your journey, how did that then translate into the personal brand you have today? Can you tell people about the content that you create and the areas of focus for your personal brand?
Yeah, somebody asked me once to define my personal brand, and I realized I didn't have a good definition other than it's kind of this Venn diagram of marketing, ADHD content, and then just whatever my random brain decides to talk about that day. So I actually started my creator journey talking about being an executive with ADHD because I have kids who are neurodivergent and I struggled growing. And I felt like I'm in a position where I can be a voice, and I started there. And what I realized when I started talking about ADHD was I had all of these marketing people following me too. I think the Venn diagram is pretty, you know. So then I just started talking about my struggles at work or the tool I was using or the why does this work for some people and not for me? And just literally saying the quiet part out loud or the thing that I was talking about with my team at work. And everybody else was like, yes, that, right? And nothing I said was particularly profound. It was just that I was putting words to the way other people were feeling. And I think we all know that when somebody says something that resonates with you, you're like, yes, thank you for saying that, right? And what it became was um, more people would share it because they might not have the words for something, but I did. And I gave them the words that they needed. And that snowballed into kind of this personal Venn diagram brand of weird and awesome.
Amazing. I love that. Was there a moment that you sort of zoomed out a little bit and said to yourself, wow, okay, this is a thing and I'm gonna maybe treat this a little bit differently?
Like exactly a year ago, actually. So I started building my personal brand in January 2024. It was like a concerted, I'm going to do this as a proof of concept for my exec. So it was like January 1st, I started posting. And by October, I was like, whoa, like I'm getting millions of views every month. Like I probably should have a strategy or at least be a little bit more thoughtful about this. And I didn't really, other than I said I'm going to post every single day for a year, and I did. And actually, I posted way more than once a day because I hit like 800 and something posts in 365 days. But I also got 49 million impressions on my content and like 400,000 people who viewed my LinkedIn profile, right? And again, compared to the corporate brands that I run, like that's pretty significant. I don't even remember what the original question was, but that's where we went.
The moment and that I think that's a good
That's it.
I think
Yeah.
that's a good segue. So what I think for everyone in the audience or who's streaming this right now, I think it's really important to think about the creator economy that
Mhm.
we're in a little bit and what in your view as a CMO, but also from your lens as a creator, what are the some of the factors that have led us to this point where the voice of creators and their value and meaning for brands is so significant in our space?
Yeah. I mean, I think that I've known this for a long time and I've been advocating. People don't buy from brands, people buy from people. People like people. You know, if people like a brand, it's usually because there's a personification of that brand. Wendy's has their like funny social person, right? Like, or you love Tesla because you love Elon. Okay, like whatever. But there is usually a person behind a brand that is the reason you have an affinity for it. So why are we spending all of our money on advertisements and brand content when we could be putting that effort into just real people talking about real experience and real things? And I think we are all totally jaded and, well, we're cynical about ads. We don't want to be interrupted all the time. We are being interrupted all the time. So imagine if somebody you already like and trust is just, it's almost like you can now just be part of the conversation as a brand rather than like interrupting someone's day to be like, buy my thing, here's why I'm awesome, right? It can just be like somebody who actually uses your product can share how they use it with other people who already know and like and trust them. And then if it's awesome content that they've created, then you can use that for your branded channels, right? And it's so much more trustworthy than just a flashy or even not flashy, ugly ad that we're getting on the side of our news or whatever every day.
Absolutely. And as a CMO, you operate in the B2B space, right? So we should talk a little bit about that as well. So what does that mean with your CMO hat on when you think
Yeah.
about the power of creators? I think at Ipsos, a lot of our data, not only in the consumer space, but in the B2B space, also points to the strength of creators.
Yeah, I mean, trust is the name of the game, right? And especially now, AI content, like people are creating content at such a speed and volume that we all have our like BS meter now because it's like we're just inundated with crap all day long. And I think that there is this desperate need for people to connect with other people and know that they can trust the people that they are interacting with. And I think this is also leading to like a rise in community, right? Like if I've certainly joined a bunch of communities, whether they're like online or in person or whatever, because I need trusted sources of people who are in my shoes, right? And I think that's what I'm establishing online is like, I'm a trusted source where people say, okay, what tools do you use for building your brand on LinkedIn? And if I suggest those tools, people go buy those tools. And that was another aha moment for me, actually, was when somebody was like, I suggested something and like 20 minutes later, they're like, okay, I bought all the tools. And I was like, what? You didn't even do any research? Like just the ones that I said. And that's because one trusted voice is more powerful than 3 hours of Google research or watching a brand's YouTube videos talking about their product. So it really, I mean, I think again, data, I think I just did a report with LinkedIn, well, Scale Venture Partners and LinkedIn, we did this in tandem about its founder-led marketing, but it applies to anybody building a brand, right? It's exactly what we're talking about. And one of the data points is um, people are 8 times more likely to buy from an individual that they trust than from brand content. And I mean, that's just a kind of a no duh, right? And why are we not leaning into that? And I think the other data point I saw was like 95% of marketers actually find more value in the money that they're putting into influencers than their average advertising or marketing campaigns, which is super interesting.
Fascinating. You mentioned trust, and we've been on a panel before. I've been a follower of yours for a long time as well on LinkedIn, and you talk a lot about authenticity.
Yeah.
And so when we at Ipsos we look at data around creators and that space, there is a correlation. There's a line you can draw between the authenticity of the creator and the notion of trust in the
Yeah.
mind of the audience. What does that mean for you?
So I think authenticity, like you said, it's like one of the things that I preach and have been before it has been like a buzzword that I think is being ruined a little bit because people have this idea that authenticity means you have to be like this, everything you think you have to say. And like, that's not what authenticity means. I call it my authenticity line. Like I have a line that I don't cross with people at work, people on LinkedIn, right? Like I show my whole self, or I should say, I show my real self while not showing every single piece of it that's not necessarily appropriate for that context. That's true for everything in life, right? Everybody is context switching depending on their audience. So when I think about authenticity, I think of it as I write in the way that I talk. When you meet me, you're like, wow, you are just like you are online. For me, that means that I am authentically showing up online. It doesn't mean that everybody knows what my favorite song is or what my kid's middle name is, right? Like that's not the same thing. And it doesn't mean that I'm walking out of a boardroom. I think this is a good example. Like I might take a lesson from a board meeting that I'm in and say, today I learned that X, Y, or Z, but I'm not going to be like, I was in a board meeting with this company and these people, and this is what we talked about. It's just like there is a way to show up authentically without oversharing. And I think people have just kind of like lost understanding of what that means, or that authenticity means just silly, human, whatever. It's not. It just means whatever your voice is, just be that person. And I'm a big advocate of this because I think people are sick of polish and people are sick of, you don't relate to somebody else who is perfect all the time, right? Like, yeah, you might strive to be that, but you don't feel the same trust. And if you talk to somebody who has the same pain points as you and they have a way of solving, you're going to be like, great, thank you for talking about that thing that is hard and scary or whatever. Even coming here and talking to you all, I wrote about how like I ran out of my public speaking class in college. It was like the one class I got a terrible grade in because public speaking is scary. But like when I talk about that, people are so much more supportive of me doing this rather than like, oh, Becca's bragging about doing a keynote talk. Instead, it's, wow, she is overcoming a thing. Good for her. And that's such a different way to receive my story, right? Anyway, that's authenticity for me.
1000%. And a lot of what you talk about as well in your with your voice and in your content is data itself. And of course, in this room, we love that. So please, by the way, follow Becca if you don't already. I'm sure many of us do already in this room. Becca, you share data.
I do.
And can you talk about how you think about the data that you're presenting to your audience, and that in and of itself, I know for me as a follower of yours, that's incredibly valuable. I'm sure for many other people here as well. Talk about that.
I wish more people would share data because it does feel like this kind of a black box. And some other creators and I have our own like WhatsApp channels where we're literally talking, we're sharing data and sharing the algorithm did this today and whatever. And LinkedIn is giving more data than they used to. Like you can now see things like how many people are sending your content, how many people are saving your content, which I think are really important signals. But what was the original question? There was an answer to this that I had that I was
How do you
ADD
decide,
guys, sorry.
how do you decide what data to share? How
All
do you
right,
think about the
thank
data
you.
set? Yes.
So LinkedIn is this black box and nobody really knows what's good, right? Like we are figuring out the benchmarks as we go. And so when I started building this following and I would share, oh, I got 15 million views over the last 90 days, other big creators would send me messages like, whoa, that's crazy. And I'm like, is it? Like, I didn't know that. And so the more that I share with other people, the more other people can get better or at least understand like what is a good benchmark or what is a bad benchmark. And so I'm just one of those people that everyone should be sharing data. I mean, you're all data-driven people, so you appreciate that. But we can all be smarter if we share data and like not gatekeep things. And why would I not, if I'm building a brand in public, why would I not be sharing that, right? And I think the more I share, the more other people feel inspired to share. And again, it builds trust, right? Becca is transparent about this stuff. So this brand that she's building isn't just this fluffy, nebulous thing.
Absolutely. With your CMO hat on now,
Mhm.
let's talk a little bit about how brands, marketers, and businesses should think about their relationships
Mhm.
with creators. I'm sure this is something you think a lot about with both hats on, but with your CMO hat on. Talk to folks in this room and streaming this about the best practices for you and how you think about fit from that perspective.
Yeah, so I think it's really important that people kind of get out of the like celebrity influencer or, in B2B, it's less about celebrity and more about the like person has 5 million followers. And it's really about micro influencers, right? It's about this person is 2 of the 3 Venn diagram messaging, right? That's their audience. And you kind of need to um, go beyond just the okay marketing hat. Like it's a perfect example. Like I could find somebody who is in cybersecurity and they're a cybersecurity influencer, but cybersecurity has a jillion different subcategories, right? So if I pick somebody from the wrong category, it's just a total waste of my time. So it really is about niching down, getting really specific about the people who they might have 20,000 followers, but those are super engaged followers who are listening to what they say because people have a semi-parasocial relationship with the people that they follow online. And they're like, this guy knows me, he gets me, he's using this tool, I'm gonna use this tool too, versus the 100,000 or million follower accounts where it might just be like, here are tools, and it just feels more like a billboard and less like your friend suggesting something to you. So I think like the micro influencer, like really niching into this person gets my audience is super important. And then I also think the relationship that you have with influencers and something that I don't think enough people are taking advantage of is like build a long-term relationship. Like if you find somebody who is using your tool and they love using it, pay them, like give them the tool for free and then give them money to talk about it. Like that is an amazing way. And then they can give you product advice, right? And then it becomes this like deep relationship where they also have buy-in into the product that you're building and they want to share more. And I think that that's the direction that we're going. And I'm kind of excited to see more of it because there's not enough emphasis on the B2B influencer market.
Absolutely. Let's talk about how you measure success, right? So you talked about fit and some of the best practices in the playbooks
Yeah.
for leaning into creators as a CMO. What are the signals, to use the word you mentioned earlier, that you're looking for as areas of success? What does good look like?
Well, like anything, it depends on what your goals are. If your goal is awareness, right, it might just be you want a ton of impressions with certain audiences, right? That might be a metric. I tend to look at engagement. I think the engagement rate of things is far more important than how many people happen to see it, especially if they're not the right eyeballs. So if I'm sharing a link, LinkedIn will tell me how many people click that link. Or if I'm hiring influencers, I can go see how many people they drove to my website, right? Or whatever the campaign may be. And that is a real indicator of interest. Or go read the comments, right? Go see what, and obviously I'm referring to LinkedIn specifically here, but that could be true for any online forum. See what other people are saying, and that is an indicator, right? All of these things are signals. They don't just have to be numbers. But then again, if you're looking at LinkedIn, go look at how many people are saving your posts. Like there will be examples of people complaining they have 2 posts that have exact same engagement, but one has 100,000 views and one has 3,000 views. Why? And it's because one of them will have 37 saves and the other one will have 1. And somebody saving your content is an indicator they want to come back to this. They want to look at it again. That means it resonates with them. And I think those are the things that I'm looking at when I'm paying somebody to share my message, but also what I'm looking at in my own data as a content creator.
Absolutely. I want to talk about how people in this room can also think about this for themselves. We are all, I'm sure, on LinkedIn, and we are all thinking about our own personal brands. We watch this in a very different way because we're living in the data of the brands that we work on. But for ourselves, what advice do you have to us as individuals, Becca, in terms of how they should think about their personal brands, maybe vis-a-vis the companies they work for?
You all have a personal brand, whether or not you're building it actively or not, right? So you should be actively shaping the story of your personal brand. Like you shouldn't let the internet shape it for you, or, you know, whatever happens to be out there from stories you've put out or whatever. You should be actively working on your brand, regardless of whether you work for a company or not. And companies should be embracing, I think, one of the most overlooked things is employees are your biggest brand advocates. Companies should be tapping into their employees to be sharing their message. That's brand awareness. That's a way to get more sales, build trust, but it's also a way to get more hiring pipeline, right? Like there's so many things that individual voices can do that brand accounts can't do. And I think from an individual perspective, in 5 years, if you haven't started building your brand now, you're going to regret it. So it doesn't mean you have to go be a thought leader. It just means update your profile. Start when you go to an event, post about it. If you learn something new at work, share it. And I could share 1,000 playbooks that you guys can go. Like I said, I just go to scalevp.com and go to the blog, and there's a founder-led playbook, but is exactly this: how to get started, ideas for content, easy ways to just start doing it, because we call it cringe mountain in our creator world. It feels cringy at first for everybody. It feels cringy to me still, but you get over it and you just do it. And like anything else, it's a muscle, and it gets really, really easy once you just start to do it. And I think in 5 years, if you're not doing it, you're going to regret it.
Amazing. Everyone, give it up for Becca Chambers, please.
Thank you.
And we also need to get some content ops going into the audience before we get off the stage. Is that right?
Get my camera and take a picture.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, we're going to take a selfie.
Is that okay with everyone? All right, 1, 2. All right, thank you, Becca. Appreciate it, everyone.